So good morning, everyone, on my behalf. My name is Tuuli Toivonen, indeed. So I'm a professor of geoinformatics at the Department of Geosciences and Geography at the University of Helsinki, and part of the FAME group, and wanting here to be presenting our research research group, the Digital Geography Lab, and a bit what we are doing in the time that I have available. I titled the presentation Sustainable and Greener Cities with Big Data Analytics and Spatial Modeling, as that is what we do, but we do actually things beyond cities as well. But I titled this way for the reason that those of us who are most linked to the FAME activities, for example, the doctoral researchers who are now hired with the doctoral education pilot funding, so they are working very much with the questions of sustainable and greener cities with big data analytics and spatial modeling. So that's sort of our angle at the moment in FAME, but we do other things as well, as I'll explain, and I hope that you find these interesting. Maybe thinking about our research overall, so how I see it is that we are probably on the very sort of applied side of things what comes to FAME, and really attempting to use advanced modeling, particularly from spatial perspective, to be contributing to discussions of urban planning or planning of natural areas, or overall understanding the functioning of the society for planning or decision making. We are a multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary group, and how we define ourselves is that we focus on spatial big data analytics on human scale for advancing fair and sustainable societies. And our work is very much linked, for example, to Sustainable Development Goals of the UN and other broad initiatives to be advancing fair, sustainable and healthy societies for everyone. We're biggest group at the moment. Of course, people are coming and going all the time, but at the moment, if counting the more senior researchers, postdocs and PhD researchers, and the supporting personnel, so we are 23. But of course, there's a lot more people with the MSc students around and visitors around and so on, which we have frequently coming in. And what do we then aim at doing as the broader group? So we focus, in order to be somehow advancing these goals of ours, so fair and sustainable societies, we concentrate on analyzing and understanding interactions between people and their environment, and from geographical perspective. Very quantitative, very data-orientated work, and usually taking the lens of sort of seeing our cities, or our regions, or even the entire globe, and the interactions that take place somehow through analyzing mobility of people. So we need to know and need to be understanding people, their behavior using big data, their mobilities, their dynamics, and then therefore, or through that, interactions between people themselves, people and places, and then people and nature, or people and their environment. And what sort of brings us together, we are running at the moment some 5 biggish research projects, from ERC Consolidator grant of mine to Horizon projects, to Conef Foundation funded projects, and so forth. So what brings all of us together is that we really try to be not only understanding these questions of interaction through mobility, but also really develop further methods which take advantage of various big data sources, particularly mobile big data sources, and develop further different methods that could be leveraging them and take them to modeling as well as possible. Some examples of our work from over the years is we've focused on modeling multimodal and dynamic accessibility. Multimodal meaning that we attempt to be really understanding how people have possibilities to interact with each other through the concept of accessibility by modeling the accessibilities with different modes, different temporalities for different people with different restrictions of mobility or different styles of mobility, for example, and try to be doing this so that we can be producing spatial data, spatial understanding of how accessibility changes dynamically over time, for example, 24 hours or then over tens of years, or as long as we can get data. We try to be linking this to the questions of equitable society and sustainability, meaning that we also integrate to these measures which are mostly based on time, so the use of time of people, to also some other measures that would be indicating that how the accessibility landscape of people actually is sort of producing, for example, CO2 emissions or other environmental burden, or then how does it impact our social equity. So these we attempt to be modeling to some extent as well. In order to be doing this and for other, like for it being interesting in itself, so we have also worked and work a lot on dynamic, sort of understanding dynamism of people at different scales. As you might know, so Finland, for example, has the best population registry of the world, so we do know where people live, but what we don't know and what the society doesn't know properly is that where people spend time. In more local scale, like in Helsinki, in here, this is an analysis with mobile phone data, which produces 24-hour population dynamics to more national scales and to international scales as well. So where or how people are, for example, in their summer cottages, or whether they are distant working from abroad. This is information which is not known by any officials and makes decision making difficult. And we try to be analyzing those patterns with modern and novel data sources, but then also to be increasingly making models and synthetic populations to be getting over the problems of some existing datasets or the existing datasets in understanding this. So privacy issues and so forth. So developing also modeling approaches or synthetic population approaches to understand such patterns. We attempt to be using these approaches also to be somehow understanding not only the dynamics of population, but indeed how diverse different environments are in terms of people. So, for example, we've integrated to these models also understanding derived from statistics and social media data on for example, the backgrounds of people in terms of their language use, how languages are sort of similarly dynamic and their use, meaning that how population groups are dynamic in different city settings, for example, how they have possibilities to interact and whether we can be observing segregation in the use of space, for example. So segregation again has been mostly analyzed from residential perspective, where people live or whether schools are segregated. But what we have tried to be bringing forward is through this dynamic approach also to see that how people use space and whether there is segregation in that. And then going to broader levels, these approaches also allow us to be understanding patterns at very much broader scale. So again, questions which are not known by any officials at the moment within Schengen. For example, it's very difficult to know how people move about across borders because there is no border control, and through our approaches we've tried to be understanding these different types of mobilities across borders as well, and the different mobility types of people. So this is work by Olle Järv in his academy research project. Similarly, people's visits to nature is something that we've linked to this approach, attempting to be understanding also global visitation patterns of people, dynamics of people in global scale, and extending to areas which are difficult to analyze using traditional methods like nature, which is in many places free to roam. So it's difficult to know where people actually go and visit. And this is something that we work in another project funded by Kone Foundation. And then to come back to the original title and the greener and more sustainable cities. So we are indeed running at the moment a big ERC project called GREENTRAVEL, where we attempt to be understanding, maybe this one, so understanding the urban travel environments and how the sort of high quality travel environments actually are available for people during their everyday trips, and how important that is, and whether we should be improving this availability in certain places. And there we are doing experimentations to understand the importance of these things. So going to environmental psychology side of things, maybe more remote to FAME, but then very much related to FAME, mapping urban greenery with human perspective. So moving from traditional spatial mapping perspective from above to this kind of human perspective. So from street view perspective, we are trying to map urban greenery with advanced computer vision methods and others, combining remotely sensed data and then computer vision methods for street view data to really understand that what are the visual greenery availabilities for people and how does it vary across the seasons. Then we try to be modeling again people's everyday mobility patterns on a street level scale in full urban populations to see that how do they get exposed to greenery or other environmental qualities like air quality. And we operate in all major cities in Europe in this project, but do particularly work in Helsinki, London, Munich, Las Palmas and Copenhagen. And maybe worthwhile pointing out, there are these two doctoral education pilot researchers who are in this linked to this project. So Jussi Torkko working with this advanced mapping approach, and then Xiao Kai working with modeling dynamic populations and everyday mobility patterns through synthetic populations, or attempting to be developing synthetic populations that could be then used in this context. Yep, so if you want to be reaching out to us or doing collaboration or discuss more, so we are super happy and open to do that. We do spatial analysis and modeling. We are good in spatial big data and open data sets, interest with mobility, dynamism and diversity of people. And then more on technical side, developing routing algorithms, accessibility analysis, big data analytics, computer vision applications and VR methods in order to do experimentation. And overall, I guess worth pointing out is that we sort of have been thinking quite a lot about our values, how to do research with high quality, sort of attempts to be of very high quality, attempting to be sharing our knowledge as well as possible, so practicing open science whenever we can, even if we are dealing with individuals to some extent, and then respecting each other and everyone around us. And if you're interested in our practices on how do we run the lab, so there's also a handbook available that we've published in order to communicate with others or exchange experiences in how to be running an interdisciplinary lab at the university setting where everyone is coming and going all the time. And we're turning 15 years next year, so there's a celebration seminar at the beginning of February, and we'll tell you more about that soon. So thanks everyone for listening, and thanks also for FAME for providing us funding and an interesting environment to work. And of course would like to be acknowledging also the other funders and data providers here. Thanks so much.